Hey there, everybody. It is time for the Bronx Buzz. I am thrilled. Of course, we kind of have a special show today. We have two really important segments. Our first segment, we're just going to get right to it. We're going to talk to Laura Levine-Pinedo. Nice to see you, Laura. How are you
Hi, Gary.
this
Thank you
evening?
so much for having me today.
Laura is I don't have enough fingers on my hands. She's the founder of the Four Bronx Project. She is one of the co-founders and organizers of Riverdale Restaurant Week, which is coming up. We're going to talk about that, and also happens to be the manager of the Bronx Burger House. You want good burgers, go to Marshall Avenue and check out the Bronx Burger House. Anyway, Laura, just talk about, and I know you're so passionate about it. Talk about the four. That's number four, the Four Bronx Project. And I learned that it's because you grew up in apartment 4B.
It is. It is.
That became
So,
4 Bronx. I don't know. I grew up in 2F. I shudder to think what I could call it, but that's another story. Anyway, go ahead. 4 Bronx Project.
so I am the manager of Bronx Burger House. I have been here for 7 years. And during the pandemic, when the restaurants were shut down, I decided to turn the inside dining section of Bronx Burger House into a drop off site for donations to redirect to people of the Bronx. So it was just something that we did that felt natural to me. I've always liked to give back, and it took off. The community really enjoyed giving back. It is definitely a necessity that needs to be done. There's many people in the Bronx who need things that they don't have, and it's just connecting and making those connections. So
I want to interject something about what you said. You said it just took off. It took off because the person who was behind it is completely passionate and committed to saying, you know what, we all need to work together to make the Bronx a better place. I know you work with a friendly fridge, right? You work
I
with
do.
organizations and just about anybody who can do positive things in the Bronx.
Yes. So, I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up on 238th Street in Review Place, right across from Bronx Ale House. And, my dad is a disabled veteran. I grew up with my father. He was in and out of homelessness when I was a child. I, thank goodness, was never homeless. My mother always worked multiple jobs, and my grandparents raised me. So, growing up in Kingsbridge, I saw people struggling. And, you
And you
know,
wanted to do what you could do to make
I
it work.
definitely want to do. I do this for people like my dad. Food insecurity. Everyone should have a pair of shoes. Women, feminine hygiene products. These are necessities that everyone should have access to. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. So I'm very passionate to redirect goods and services to people of the Bronx.
How does a Riverdale Restaurant Week coincide with those objectives? So listen, building up businesses is one thing, but I know for you, it's all kind of in a package. It's all part of the same theme.
Yes. So Riverdale Restaurant Week, this will be the second one now. We had our first, it was very successful this past October. So we're doing one in the fall and one in the spring. Michael and I Mike is my partner from Flexus Media. We're very passionate about this. I've worked in the restaurant business locally here for almost 20 years, and it's a very, very hard business. The pandemic has not made it any easier. And
Right.
so we had this idea to highlight and showcase the local establishments, the local businesses. To each place has a story, and it's our objective to let their story be known. So
And uh, it also contributes to the culture of the Bronx to say to people, because people say, "Oh, I don't know, there's nothing in my neighborhood," and I know right down the block or where you grew up, there's now a new steakhouse there. Not that I want to promote any
it's
competition for
delicious.
you.
No, it's delicious.
It's a wonderful place. There's the Kingsbridge Social Club. There's the Bronx Burger House, and this is only one neighborhood. We need you in all the Bronx
The,
neighborhoods.
the thing is, there was only 6 Bronx restaurants that participated in 2022 New York Restaurant Week. We never really get asked. Bronx Burger House never really was asked to be. So if that's what we're going through, I'm sure these are what the other restaurants went through as well. And it's just a week to boost our local economy, to celebrate the diversity of our community. And, the whole point of this is at the end, we do pledge to put food into the friendly fridge on 242nd Street. So we're highlighting our local eateries, but also helping to fight this constant battle with food insecurity in our community.
And it's real important from the small business perspective to note, and sad to note, that the Blue Bay Diner and Madison's, both very popular places in the Northwest Bronx, closed. The Riverdale Diner, which was frankly a landmark place for all of us. You live down the
That was my
block
first
from it.
job. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. But that also, they had a fire and they've not been able to reopen it. And it certainly doesn't appear that they're going to reopen it. This is not a good trend, to be honest with you.
No, and Bronx Burger House and Madison's, we were sister restaurants. So that hit very close
Oh,
to
I
the
didn't realize that. Oh,
yes, yes, Burger House, Beccafino, and Madison's. So when we lost Madison's, we're like, wow, this is
mm.
serious, And then
I,
Siam Square closed.
I was. It's funny you said that. I was just going to say that one of the person who owned it and ran it works at BronxNet. He's an engineer at BronxNet,
Oh wow.
so I was well familiar when he told me that restaurant was closing. This is not a good trend. So what happens during restaurant week? You can go to your favorite local restaurant and you get a break, or what is
Right. So
restaurant week?
each restaurant that's participating, we have 33 restaurants. You can find the complete list on dineoutriverdale.com or
Dineoutriverdale.com.
or
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, Dine Out Riverdale. There's special prefix menus where you can try, a 3-course meal, or some of them have opted for a straight across discount. So some are providing 20% off. So it's just incentive to go and try places that the community may have never tried or enjoy your favorite places.
And I have to say it's really very admirable of you, because you have an interest in your own place, and I want to highlight the Bronx Burger House for Riverdale Restaurant Week or any week of the year. But you have talked on this program and throughout this process openly about saying, let's get all the restaurants going. Let's get everybody out
There's
there.
enough sun to shine on everyone.
Aren't you great? I'm just curious about something. Now, I don't recall. Did you have an outside shed? Did you do outdoor
We do have
dining?
an outdoor dining. It's not a shed, but it's a space.
A space out there. What do you think about the notion that, for example, if you go on Johnson Avenue, you can't find parking anymore, and the city is wrestling with how to deal with that. Do you think people or owners should take them down once the weather gets warm? Boy, I want to sit outside in those places.
People enjoy eating outside. I personally do not. When I go out,
Mhm.
I go inside any place. But people enjoy, and Gary, people are still very scared. They're very nervous about we're not finished with this
Ah,
pandemic. And I still have customers from 3 years ago. They have not stepped foot at the Bronx Burger House. They only come for the outdoor dining, or they'll take, takeout.
right,
So it's more inclusive of people who, may feel hesitant to come into a restaurant or a
right.
bar.
Right.
So
And so it sounds from that your attitude would be, let's keep as many open as we can and try and figure out another way to find places to park.
it's easy.
Frankly, I agree with that. That's my point of view. I love going out. I thought when I walk up, Amsterdam Avenue, and people would be out, especially in the summertime. Of course, we're not quite there yet. That to me was New York. It really
Right.
it taught us something, even though the pandemic was so horrible. We learned that.
Right. No, I mean, we're kind of out of the way over here at Bronx Burger House, but I can also see why people would want to take them down in the you know, more crowded areas. But,
Mhm.
people are still very nervous. I can say that from the interactions I have with the community members.
And so the idea would be to give people as much opportunity to come out. That's
Exactly.
exactly what we want to do. I was just thinking about up the block from you, is that, and this is just the kind of business that you'd like to keep going, is that a barbecue place
Right.
right up the block. You probably know the woman. I don't know her name.
Ronnie, yes. I have
Right.
such a soft spot for her. She's amazing. She is.
She's amazing, and it's one of those places. I've been in there plenty of times. We've gotten takeout from there plenty of times. A lot of people don't know it. That's the beauty of Riverdale Restaurant Week, right?
Exactly. And what I've learned this time around, we have so many minority owned businesses that
Ah,
have joined. We've now expanded down to 231st Street. Um, there's sometimes language barriers, and we really just want, like I said, to tell the stories of these restaurants and be proud of your diversity, and be proud of your cuisine and your heritage, because we all do this because we have a reason, we have a story. So we just want to tell the stories of these businesses.
And for Bronx, other projects. I mean, this is obviously a big thing for you, and it's going to start April 15th. This program will air beginning April 13th, so there's plenty of time for people to make plans. Just talk to me about what you're thinking about for next.
So I do have a next. I
I
am
knew you
going
did.
and we never stop. Um,
That's my point. Yeah.
my work is dedicated to my grandmother. My grandmother raised me.
Hmm.
Her name was Alice. And 4B, I wanted to dedicate this to her. 4B is the apartment I grew up with her. Then 4B. And so this is her legacy, and this is something that she was very passionate about. So this is all for her. June 4th, I will be spearheading Riverdale Pride. This is the second Pride that we've had in Riverdale. And we have a lot of support this year, even more so than last year. It will be at Riverdale Neighborhood House.
And the kind of activities we're going to have.
We are going to have it's family friendly, family fun, face painters, balloon artists, live entertainment, DJs, drag queens, glitter arts and
Beautiful.
crafts.
And again, for you, this is the vision of the whole thing, of all of us being together. And let's, the pandemic move people away from each other, but this is a way to bring families and communities back together. I know you work closely with KRVC, and you just doing everything you can.
I am their newest project. Yeah.
Say it again.
I am KRVC's newest project. So I am Team KRVC. I have their truck now that we do our drop-offs and complete access to their office space, and they are amazing, and I really thank them for taking me under their wing and showing me.
Well, Laura Levine-Pinedo, you are amazing, and we thank you for everything that you do for us and for in the Bronx. I'm fortunate. I don't live in Riverdale, but I live right near Riverdale, just like you did, and I'm in Van Cortlandt Village, and so I know all the places that you're talking about. Let's build our communities. Every community should have a Laura Levine-Pinedo, because then we could really get somewhere. Thank you so much. Check out the Bronx Burger House. Don't be shy. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, another wonderful place in the Bronx is the Pregonis Theater. And we're going to talk to folks who have something very special coming up there. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
So much. Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's start time for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Pasta dinner.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
All right, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I told you I'm very excited about this segment because it's one of the historic theaters in the Bronx, and a play that I think is going to relate to a lot of Bronx people. We're talking about The Diamond, which is going to be at the Pregonis Theater. So let's welcome in the director, Chuk Obasi. Nice to see you, Chuk. And the playwright is Christin Cato. Nice to have you with us, Christin. Christin, let's start with you. Talk to me about the creation of The Diamond.
Right. So The Diamond is a compilation of 3 prior existing plays that were devised and written and performed by the People's Theater Project. And so my task was to take these 3 existing plays and combine them into one story and find the through line that connects all 3 narratives to create this story of revolution and of freedom.
Let me just ask you thematically, aside from those 3 original works, this is an immigrant story.
It is.
So as you approach this project, what story did you ultimately want to tell after you had put all 3 of those together?
That's a great question. So the story that we wanted to tell is how do how do immigrants and migrants like live in America and their relationships to America and their relationships to their countries and the process of immigration, the journeys that they go through, and how different that they all can be because they're not, I mean, like immigration in America is not a monolith idea. It's so many different ways
Yep.
that it comes to be. And so exploring all of those different stories and how they impact each individual and also to create and also to remember the influences, the positive influences that immigrants serve to our country and like how they help build and how they have built this country and remembering that
Hmm.
even though even though laws are and policies are constantly changing.
Hmm. I tell people all the time, in fact, it came up on a earlier show that we recorded today, that I always view the Bronx as undiscovered territory. Nobody knows we're here. They don't know how we live. They have some crazy concept of who we really are. Um, the immigrant experience, it seems to me, is in that category as well. We know
Hmm.
how it's reported in the media. We know what we see about boats coming from Cuba and all the issues down at the border. But how often do we really understand what that experience really is from the perspective, just like when we talk about the Bronx, of us, of who we are? Um,
Yeah.
and so this must have been a labor of love for you, is what I'm guessing.
Right. And and me, personally, I'm also from the Bronx, born and raised. And so although I might be a daughter of immigrants, I didn't personally go through the journey. And so that's why this process was so unique, is that I was able to work alongside a cast of actors who each have their own individual experiences. And so this story it's authentic, it's genuine, it's actually we're uplifting the voices of these people who have gone through these experiences.
And needless to say, but I will say it, it's my job.
Hmm.
Showing it at the Pergonis Theater is, of
Right.
course, where we should have this dialogue. I mean, in the borough of Bronx.
Yeah.
Chuck, if you'll forgive me, I want to show this very short teaser, which is a video thing, even though that we're going to talk about a performance, and then we'll bring you in about the challenge of trying to tell this story in the theater. So, Anderson, if you cue up the magic box, let's take a look at the diamond.
Come, mija. Don't be afraid. Es tiempo.
And the diamond?
When the people remember, they shall be free.
Well, there you go. Thematically, what this is, what it feels like. You saw the different nationalities. You saw the different places they come from. You could see just in the way that it was presented. Chuck, what's the challenge? What for you as a director when you take the concept, you take the playwright's work? I always say the screenplay, but of course it's the theater movement. Talk to me about the challenge of putting this together.
Well, I would say it's hoping that the crazy inner workings of your brain will translate when all is said and done. Like I'll just say that off the bat. But you know what? Outside of that, a lot of the challenges that come with directing a devised piece, which is what this is, it's actually quite an honor.
because you really have to create something. In other words, you can't just kind of use somebody else's work or do it based on something else. You've got to look at it and almost start from scratch, right?
Oh, you absolutely have to start from scratch, and you're telling, in a way, you're telling the story of the people in the room. PTP is, it is immigrant led, and so we're bringing in these artists. And from day one, back when we were creating these 3 separate pieces, the material, it came from their stories, from our stories.
Those were the original that Christin was talking about.
Yeah, and so a lot of that lingered even going into the diamond, and so a lot of that inspiration is right there in front of you, and so there's a combination of like inserting your creative vision, and I think Cato could attest to this too, but then also like just following the stories that are right there in the room, which are from the artists.
So here's a challenging question for you as a director. To me, you've had to play with 3 aspects, of course, Christin's vision and, in the writing of it, but it's the people in the play and people represented, but also you're playing this to the people of the Bronx who are, my family, my descendants were certainly immigrants. We all came from somewhere else. Many of us came from somewhere else coming here. And so, when we talk about doing TV, you're always talking about the audience.
Yeah.
What was the challenge and what did you have to do to communicate those stories as a director to the people of the Bronx who are going to be sitting in there watching this thing, and you hope they'll get some emotional charge out of it? Can you address that in some form? Because I know it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. And, I started from asking myself, like, if I were an audience member, what kind of experience would I want to have being from the Bronx myself, both being from the Bronx and being the son of immigrants, Nigerian immigrants. And, I just have to like tap into my experience coming here and like channeling my parents' experience as going from visitors, outsiders, to people who, really dug their roots into the point that they had a voice and they were part of the table. And that whole process and all that it entailed.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there was a lot that came with that, from, there were triumphs that came with it.
I hate to ask this question I'm going to put my hand in front of Christin, with Christin in the room. Did you play with any of the dialogue or anything like that? Or you took that as the Bible and you said, okay, I'm going to fit everything into those words? Or did you work together to craft something?
Lots of playing. It's the nature of the devised work and the nature of just having that inspiration right there in front of you. There's a lot of, it's very much a collaborative effort.
Yeah, and I think that based on what you said, is because you call it a devised work, you're creating it like that, you both got to kind of be loose about it. Christin, again with Chuk in the room, talk about the direction and how do you feel it came out? Does it express what you wanted to express? How do you feel about the way it looks and the way the people of the Bronx are going to see it beginning the 15th at the Braconis Theater?
What I love about this piece is that it's interdisciplinary. So there's movement, there's choreography, there's music, there's song, and there's poetry, and you're going to hear different dialects and different languages. And so it's like, going into the rehearsal process, I told Chuk from the beginning, I was like, this is just a blueprint. Like, this is a document, this is a story that this is the blueprint for, and from here, together we can build upon these different ideas, these themes, and we can eliminate words so that we can insert those moments with actual visceral moments.
Uh,
Because I think one of the things we want our audiences to feel is that we want them to feel seen too. And sometimes feeling seen is by seeing these bodies on stage. It is not always the words.
You know, I was smiling. I wasn't on camera when you were talking, but I was
Okay.
smiling. And the reason I was smiling is because when you talked about the music and the poetry and the dialogue and the dialects and everything else, I said, you've now captured my hometown borough of the Bronx. This is
Right.
what the Bronx is. If you don't have and you'll have a chance to reach all the people as a result of that. So we're almost out of time. Just talk about why this is. We'll give you each a chance. We'll start with you, Chuk. Why is this so important to you, and why are you thrilled to be able to present it to the Bronx beginning April 15th?
It's really important. It's really important to me because I think the journey of coming to a table and then just becoming part of that table as a member, not just a visitor, that's worth commemorating. And I think,
which is I got to move it along because we're almost out of time, which is the task, the lifelong task of every immigrant who's ever stepped foot in our country, but certainly in our home borough of the Bronx. Christin, your thoughts on that? We'll give you about 30 seconds, and then we want to promote the buying of the tickets for the show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the importance is that it creates empathy and an understanding, especially since we're living in a world right now where there are so many people migrating, especially and coming to New York City too. And so I think it's really, really important that we understand the experiences that these people are coming with, and that we create more solidarity. And it's
Not
also a
only
call to action.
Yeah, solidarity, but to begin with, who are they? Who are they
Right,
really? You know,
right.
what are they thinking
hmm
about? I mean, listen, congratulations on The Diamond. The show will run from April 15th to the 23rd at the Pergonis Theater, of course, is on Walton Avenue, 575 Walton. Tickets available at the peoplestheaterproject.org at The Diamond /The Diamond. We'll put that up on the screen. And it's worth families to come and see,
Absolutely.
families to see who your neighbors are and who we are together. And that way we can come to common understanding. Listen, Chuk Obasi, the director, and Christin Eve Cato, the playwright, thank you for doing your work, and thank you for your passion, and thank you for bringing it to the borough of the Bronx, the Pergonis Theater, beginning April 15th. Come out and see it, right?
thank you.
Thank you.
Great work. Such important work in our home borough of the Bronx. So, folks, that will do it for us on the Bronx Buzz. What a fine show! With you get the passion of the people of the Bronx in our first segment and in our second segment, and that leads us to say what we say every week. We'll see you next week. Good night.